John Henry, are you happy with your bean harvest?
Yes. The bean.
How are you feeling about the yield so far?
The bean.
Okay, now how are you really feeling about the yield so far?
Lot of beans here.
Do you
Lot of
think
beans.
so?
Do you think you have more than 2 bags?
We normally eat. So you
I'd say
normally
like a
cook about a pound every time you cook them. So how many do you think you're gonna get?
2 pounds?
2 pounds out of this? 3 pounds?
I don't know. Like,
Pound is one of those bags at the store.
Not the big ones. The little organic ones that we buy are 1 pound.
Wow.
no, there are 2, I think.
So
I don't know. I'd say
So tiny.
we'd get, I don't know, 3 pots worth, I'd say.
3 Instapots worth.
Yes.
That's pretty good, I would say. We may need to look at ways to grow beans that are higher yield.
If we grew them in the hydroponic garden, you can do that.
Can you grow beans in the hydroponic garden?
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, and then they grow down and they make a cool looking wall. It's in my book.
Oh, all right. We'll have to see what kind of beans they are.
Yeah.
But is this a satisfying job?
More satisfying than doing the dishes.
You have anything to add there, Lincoln?
You didn't do it
How about
correctly.
you? How about you, Leo?
I knew it was because food.
Are you happy
Shut up.
to grow this kind of food?
Yes.
So that was kind of fun. I thought was a fun little capture of an activity that our family does together or did together. We ended up with this many beans. And it's there's a half-gallon jar. It's 3 pounds 3 ounces. So for our family, that's about 6 meals worth of beans. So that's not a lot in comparison to how often we eat beans, which we eat a lot of beans, which is why we were trying to grow some of them. Now, my children really prefer pinto beans, and you heard John Henry talk about him cooking pinto beans in our Instapot, and he does that every week. That's his like lunch food that he loves every week. Black beans are more something that we would have for dinner. We really like spiced black beans or black bean chili. So that's why we decided to go with black beans. We don't eat them quite as often. And we're just experimenting with different ways to add different protein sources to our to the things that we can provide on our little farm. So we have eggs, and now we have beans, and we're going to keep experimenting with other ways that we can increase the number of beans that we can grow. This was from, I would say, about 60 bean plants. I didn't count, but they were in a 4 by 6 foot bed. So it was not a huge area that we were growing them in. And you can see that in some of the garden tours. But well, come on then. I've got a cat wanting to join me. Evidently he wants to be introduced to. Well, come on. Come on. This is Abner. Hi. So some other things you heard John Henry talk about, his hydroponics garden, which we haven't talked about or I haven't shown you in any of the garden tours yet. It's not quite ready. We're still working on it. It's got some leaks in it. It's something he and his friends designed. And we just need to work out the last, it's like 95% ready. And us, like him going back to school kind of put a damper on that. But we are determined. We're going to grow food in his hydroponics farm. It's pretty big. It'll grow a lot of food. So that'll be in an upcoming video. And then as I picked up this, as I was getting these beans ready, I just wanted to tell you basically I didn't show the process of what we did, and this is the first time we've ever grown dried beans, but we waited until I stopped watering the beans. Honestly, they mostly were dry gardened. I rarely watered them after they were established. They grew really well in good, a well-established bed with compost on it. And I completely stopped watering them totally about 6 weeks before harvest, maybe a little bit more than that. And most of the pods had dried out when we harvested them. Hey, Needy. He's like batting me. Anyway, we harvested them. Harvesting them took quite a long time. There were a lot of pods, and I will definitely be interested in I really wanted to leave the plants there because I wanted the benefit for the soil of the nitrogen nodes that the roots leave. So I actually harvested from the field, but in the future, I may cut the plants so that we can sit and harvest them in one place, or dry them on the plants and then pull them off. I'm not really sure. I would like to explore different ways of harvesting. And then because we had such a small harvest, we chose to open each individual pod after they were dried. Oh, we laid them out and dried them. Most of them were dried, but I did lay them out on trays and put them in my greenhouse, and that dried them out the rest of the way. And then we also laid the beans out once they were out of the pods and dried them for a few more days to make sure that everything was good and dry. So that's what we did. There's probably more efficient ways to do that. I'm sure there are. But because we had a relatively small harvest, we wanted to maximize that. I wanted to show you the lid on this. Is an old metal Miracle Whip lid. And one of the things that a thing that I found, I use a ton of glass jars. In fact, I have run out of canning jars, which my husband was like, that cannot be possible, but I've run out of quart canning jars. And they're really hard to buy right now. So, but I use a lot of them for dry storage, not canned. And for those, you don't need canning lids, which are really hard to get right now. So you just they do make the plastic lids that you can buy. They come in both leak proof, and then the white ones are not leak proof. They're just like these. But people tend to give me their old canning things, and from Lincoln's grandmother and his aunt, I inherited a bunch of just random canning stuff, and it included these metal lids, these old metal lids, and they fit just fine on my jars. They fit perfectly on the wide mouth jars. For narrow mouth jars, the peanut butter that we use, the lids fit great on them. And also that smells so good. It's spring tips, the Douglas Fir spring tips. Oh, it smells so good. The lids for our favorite salad dressing also fit on a regular mouth jar. So if you're using jars for dry storage, you don't need to be using canning lids for those. And so we save those lids, and the other lids, I like these old metal ones. They make me happy. But for herbs, beans, and we store a lot of things in our jars that are dry and they don't need the 2-part metal can or metal lids that you use when you're canning. So just a little tip right now, when it's kind of hard to find lids, really hard to find canning lids right now. I'm so grateful for my stash of them. I did order some at the end of canning season last year, and I think they showed up in like March. But I had enough to finish my canning season last year, and then was thinking ahead, and it took months for them to show up. And I know a lot of people have had problems with like off-brand canning lids not sealing. I was able to find some Ball canning lids and that's what I bought, and I probably paid more for them than you normally would, but it is what it is, supply and demand. So, but yeah, I have a stash that I have kept from previous years and I've been fine. So hopefully by next canning season, this will no longer be a problem. I still have wide mouth ones, but I'm running pretty low on narrow mouth, regular mouth. Anyway, that's a tip for ways to get around other lids. And yeah, if you have any tips or like tips on growing beans, let me know. We'd like to definitely, I think we're going to increase both of our square footage, but we also are going to look into growing non-bush varieties. These were grown as bush beans. And I think we would like to grow pole beans because I think we could get more in the same square footage. So we are looking to grow more dried beans and to increase that protein source for our family. Anyway, I hope that was interesting, helpful, useful. And I hope you enjoyed the little snippet of the craziness and hilarity. My boys are so silly and so funny, and I can't imagine where they get it. I mean, you know. Yeah, and so getting to meet Lincoln and Leo, I know they haven't been on here a lot, but they're here. And Abner, who is now sitting on my desk. All right, I'll talk to you next time. Bye.